I've been in the tech sales industry for over 8 years now. I have a company that's placed 200 plus people in tech sales careers. And if I had to start over from scratch today in this brutal job market, here's exactly how I get a tech sales job in the next 60 days without a degree, without sales experience, without any technical skills. And I want to be clear, this isn't about how you use some new AI tool to format your resume or how you can mass apply to thousands of jobs on LinkedIn. You and I both know that just doesn't work. What works is a 5-step playbook that I've perfected after placing 200 plus people in tech sales careers. And these aren't just any jobs. These are jobs that pay a $57,000 base, an $81,000 total compensation package on top of things like healthcare, benefits, equity. And on average, these people have gotten jobs in 59 days. Yes, under 2 months in this brutal job market. After this video, I guarantee you will never approach or look at the job search the same way again. You are going to shave months off of your job search and actually join companies and get offers that excite you. Let's dive in. The first step is identifying the right companies. The tech industry is booming. You and I both know that. But the problem is now every company wants to brand themselves as a tech company because they know employees are attracted to that. But the problem is most companies do not have the career growth, the pay, and the talent that is actually worthy of you and your time in your career. And so in this section, we want to help identify what are actually good tech companies in the tech industry. A good analogy I like using here is imagine you are an aspiring professional basketball player. When you grow up, you don't imagine yourself playing for the Shanghai Sharks in China. No, you imagine yourself playing in the NBA, the place where LeBron James, where Kobe Bryant, where Michael Jordan have all played. You want to be where the best of the best are, right? Those are the people who get paid the most, that are surrounded by the best talent that they can learn from, and have the best career growth opportunities. So you want to think the same way about your career. So we know we want to join a great tech company. How do we actually do it? So whenever you come across a job opening of a company in tech, what you want to do is you want to Google that company. You want to look up the company name, and you want to look up funding. You're looking for an article that talks about a recent fundraising round that they got from investors, right? Money to build out their mission, their team, their growth, all that kind of stuff. And in these articles, it says who the investors are, right? So cool, that's level one. We know this company is getting tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars in investing. But level two, pro mode, is actually looking up that investor and making sure that investor has a good track record. So as an example, let's use a company called Rippling. They're a super hot company in tech, but a way we can also verify that is look at who are the investors backing them. So in this article, we can see that Rippling is backed by lots of investors. Let's just choose one of them. One of them's called Y Combinator. Now, if we go to Y Combinator's website, on their website, they show the companies they've invested in over time. And the thing about Y Combinator is they invest in companies right at the start, just when it's a few co-founders. They're not investing in companies when they're clearly proven and have thousands of employees. And we can see that at the start of some of these companies, Y Combinator has invested in DoorDash, they've invested in Instacart, they've invested in Reddit, they've invested in Coinbase. These are all household names in tech now, and they invested in them just at the start. So now we know that Rippling has the backing of an investor that knows what good tech companies look like. I'll be honest with you though, just because they have the signal, it does not guarantee that this tech company will succeed. But it is a really good stamp of approval that this company has a very strong founder, has a really great growth rate, and is attracting really great talent as well, or else these investors wouldn't have invested in them. A good example of someone we helped do this is Jordan. When we worked with Jordan, we helped him join Chronosphere. Chronosphere grew from being worth $0 and just starting to $1.6 billion in 4 years. 1.6 billion, that's insane. Now, I don't want to lie to you. 2 years into that role, he got let go of. It was a tough time in tech, and it was a brutal job market. But also, I want to tell you what happened after. 1 month later, he landed his next job. And the reason why was because of the prestige of working at Chronosphere. When you work at great tech companies, recruiters are going to be coming inbound into your LinkedIn, into your DMs, telling you about opportunities. And also, when you reach out to recruiters and hiring managers about opportunities, they're going to see a great name brand in tech on your LinkedIn, and they're going to be down to chat with you because they know if that company that is great hired you, there must be something there, right? And so the second company that Jordan joined was Deci AI. 8 months into his role there, they got acquired by NVIDIA. And if you don't know much about tech or AI, NVIDIA is one of the hottest companies in tech right now. They're listed on the US stock exchange and they're worth over $1 trillion. So 8 months into that role, they got acquired. He decided to move on. And where he decided to move on to was Allen Control Systems. They're a next-gen defense tech company. And 3 years into his tech sales career, he went from just starting to being a VP of sales. Now, again, I'm not going to tell you that this is going to happen for you. 3 years becoming a VP is unlikely. More likely, it's going to take 5, 6, 7, 8 years if you're performing really well. But I do want to show you what's possible in this industry and the career growth that's possible when you work really hard, when you're a good performer, and you join the right tech companies. So step 2 is creating a standout resume. And before we go into what your resume needs, I do have to be honest with you about this. This is not the most important part of getting a job. Everyone thinks it is, but the reality is it's not. So let's keep this section short and quick. I'm not going to go into details about how you need to keep it to one page, about how you need to talk about your most recent roles first, or using verbs. You already know that stuff. The first thing is you want to lead with high impact, metric driven numbers. You want them to immediately think, oh, this person was a top performer. Maybe that top bullet is something like awarded employee of the year. Maybe it was something like hit 120% of quota. Maybe it was something like top 1 out of a team of 20 in terms of customer satisfaction score. Lead with your best. You want this person to think, oh, this person's a top performer. The second thing is you want to avoid technical jargon and you want to make everything sound stupid simple. The hiring manager or recruiter is going to be looking at your resume for 5 to 10 to 15 seconds and deciding if they want to invest more time in it. And so if everything is confusing, they're just going to move on. You have to make it immediately clear on what it is you did in these roles. For instance, I wouldn't say something like created CX-centric tools in Zendesk to reduce ticket backlog by 40%. You want to make it sound more simple. Instead, you'll say something like created Zendesk shortcuts that reduced our customer support inquiries by 40% so we could respond to customers faster. You want to think, how do you say this in a more concise, simple, stupid, easy to understand way? The third thing is, if the company goals were too hard, compare yourself to your peers instead. Sometimes the metrics that you are measured on are unrealistic. Maybe everyone on the team only hit 20% or 50% of the goal. And so instead of comparing yourself to that number, you compare yourself to your team because you perform better than your team. You were top 3 out of a team of 30. You want to find whatever metric or accomplishment that paints you in the best light. Hey, so real quick, my company, Tech Sales Mentors, has placed over 200 plus people into tech sales careers. And those people have had all different types of backgrounds. So to help you do it yourself, we created this 200K career roadmap. It's hyper-personalized to you. So wherever you're at in your career, wherever you're at in your skill set, it is personalized to help you land a dream offer that you're ecstatic about. It's hyper-personalized to you. So wherever you're at in your career or even your skill set, it's going to give you everything you need to land your dream offer. These are emails that lead to interviews. These are interview answers that lead to offers. And these are negotiation strategies that help you maximize your offer. So if you're thinking, I'd love to know what offer could I get based on my experience, and you want to make that offer a reality, then this is 100% free. You can go to techsalesmentors.com/roadmap, or you can check it out in the link below. Or if you'd like my team to do all the heavy lifting for you, we will actually do the job search for you. We will send the emails that get you into the interviews. We will create your interview answers that lead to offers, and we will negotiate your offer so you maximize the offer you can get. So after you fill out your info and get your roadmap, on the thank you page, you'll be able to schedule a time with us and we can see if you're a fit for the program. Step 3 is mastering cold email outreach. So you want a good resume, but they're not nearly as important as everyone thinks. The goal of a resume is to get into an interview. The problem today is job openings are flooded with thousands of applicants. And so even if you are a candidate with good experience, you might be the middle paper in a digital stack of 1,000 resumes. They're not even going to see your resume. The better way to get into interviews is actually emailing the hiring manager or recruiter. And the reason you want to do this is for 2 reasons. The first reason is you're showing you can actually do the job. So we're going for a job in tech sales. A key part and aspect of doing that is cold emailing prospects and leads and trying to get them to get on sales calls with you. And so showing you can actually create a good cold email and sending it to a hiring manager or recruiter shows, oh, this person can do the job. The second reason is virtually no one does it. Everyone is hitting easy apply. And that means you're competing with thousands of people. Virtually no one is sending cold emails to hiring managers. So that means you're competing with way less people. They're way more likely to see your message and who you are. What the problem is most people don't create good cold emails. Sure, you need to send it, but it also needs to be good and make a good impression. So let's walk through how you do that. So let's first talk about what to avoid. I want to show you an example of when I was hiring for a role, a cold email I got. The problem with it wasn't concise, it sounded spammy, and it didn't even actually speak to this person's true achievements. And so what I want to show you here in this email is that, one, if you took out my name and my company name and put anyone else's, it could apply to that same company. And so it's not truly personalized for me. You want to send emails that are one of one, meaning you could only send it to this person. It would only make sense if you called out this specific thing from their background or something you saw on their LinkedIn. The second thing is he uses overly fluffy language when he's talking about his accomplishments. Something better would be saying something like, from working on the sales team, I drove 150% growth in revenue generated. Or I was doing 200 plus cold calls per day. So you want to quantify your actual impact and results at companies. And so the last part I want to call out, and this may sound small, but the small details are important, is the grammar is incorrect. There's commas and periods in weird places. There's misspelled words. And while that might seem small to you, you are applying for a sales role. In a sales role, you are a potential customer's first impression of a company. So your first impression needs to be amazing. You need to have written communication and verbal communication that is on point. You need to come across as professional. So let's walk through what a good cold email looks like. A good cold email is concise, has relevant personalization, and actually truly sells the impact that you made in your roles. So what I want to do is walk you through an email we created for a candidate, a tech sales candidate, that actually got them into an interview. So in this cold email, the first thing we want to talk about is the first paragraph. The first paragraph is focused on relevant personalization. What that means is you go and look at that person's LinkedIn and you find something that they're talking about on their LinkedIn that you can mention. But here's where the relevant part comes in. You want to actually mention something that relates to why you're reaching out. You're reaching out because you want to interview and you want to work with this person. So in this email, we're saying you've crushed tech sales, you raised a family, and you came back swinging. The reason we mention this is because the person mentions this on their LinkedIn. And we're saying we want to work with that type of person. We want to work with that type of leader. That is an example of not just personalization, but relevant personalization. Now, the second paragraph is focused on you. And think of this as the highlights. Think of this as the accomplishments. Think of this as when you think to your proudest moments in your career, here are the numbers you're going to bring up that showed, wow, I really crushed it in my jobs. The last paragraph is simple. We're making our call to action. What's the point of this email? And here's how the hiring manager responded. They said, this was super personalized. This was a killer message that you sent. And the last sentence is the critical one. I usually skip these emails, but yours caught my eye. This shows you that cold emailing does work. It just works when you do it right. Now, here's the thing you want to bear in mind. Just because you sent a good cold email does not mean that person is going to respond or that you are entitled to a response. That person has a busy life. Maybe they had a ton of emails come in that day about work. Lots of things could have been the reason that they didn't respond to your message. But good tech sales reps do not let that stop them. They follow up. They send a second email. They talk about different experiences that they've had that also showed that they'd be a good tech sales rep, right? Or they send a third email and they basically say, hey, I've been reaching out to you about this role. Are you the right person to reach out to, or should I be reaching out to someone else? Keep on following up. It's what good tech sales people do. They're persistent. So far, we've covered how to get into the door. But here's the part that most people miss. Getting interviews is just the first step. This isn't a 15-minute interview at a restaurant to see if you have a pulse. You are joining the top tech companies in the world. You're going to be interviewing in 3 to 5 interview rounds with a recruiter, with a sales manager, maybe a sales director, maybe a sales VP, maybe even a CEO. We need to take this part seriously, and we need to make sure we are absolutely prepared for every interview to crush it. And while that sounds like a lot, we've boiled down interviewing into some very simple things that if you follow, you'll get the offer that you want. These are the moves that take you from interviewing to lucrative offer. Oh, and I highly recommend downloading the roadmap below. It's going to give you the questions and answers you need to give to make hiring you a no-brainer. And remember, it's totally free. Now, step 4 is about nailing the interview. Now, in this section, we're going to go through not only the questions you're going to get asked, but how to answer them, the 3 most common questions. But before we go into those specifics, we need to start with broad foundations about how to actually interview. We need to learn how to crawl before we walk. So the first principle is you need to put yourself in the shoes of your audience. You need to put yourself in the shoes of the employer. So here's what I mean by that. You may be going into tech because you want to land a remote role, or you want better benefits in the industry that you've been in. But when the interviewer asks you, why do you want to join our company? You don't say that. You don't say, I want to join your company because I want to work remote, or because I want good benefits. Those things can be true, but you need to put yourself in the shoes of the employer. Their job is to hire someone who's eager to work at that company, who's eager to crush that role, and wants to become the best at what they do. Instead, you want to talk about how you want to join that company because the leaders at that company seem like great people to learn from, and you're eager to be a sponge and be super coachable and learn everything they have to teach you. Or because what you're learning about the product is so fascinating. The idea that you're going to be calling people and emailing leads all day long about what this product does really excites you. Those are the things you want to lead with. So again, you can want these things that you want to be remote, you want good benefits, all that kind of stuff. But when you are answering interview questions, think to what this person wants to hear and have your answers reflect that. Number 2 is you don't want to be vague in your interview answers. You want to help visualize and paint a picture in their head of what you've done. And so often you'll see this in interview answers and LinkedIn about sections. I am a hardworking, dedicated professional. I'm someone who's going to put my best foot forward. That is vague, and every other interviewer can say the exact same thing, which means you're going to sound like everyone else. So instead, you want to tell stories that show you're a hard worker, that show you're dedicated, that show you've gone over the top before. So you want to think to times in your life when you've demonstrated that trait and actually tell that story instead. So for me, for example, I am a hard worker. And the way I showed that in my tech sales interviews was I didn't say that, but instead I told a story that reflected that. So in college, I was trying to get into a finance club. It was admissions based and they were very selective. And so the first time I applied, I thought I did a decent amount of work. I met some people who are already in the program. I, studied and interviewed for maybe 5 to 10 hours, and I got rejected. And so instead of in that moment, of course, there was a week of me eating ice cream and watching Netflix. But after that, I got back on the horse and I decided, hey, I'm going to apply again, but this time here's what I'm going to do different. I'm going to meet with all 50 members in this organization and make sure I network with them beforehand and ask them what I can do better this time. I'm going to spend 10x the amount of time prepping for the interview. I'm going to spend over 100 hours practicing my interview answers, perfecting them with people that are already in the organization. And I'm going to make sure I leave nothing to chance. And so the second time around, I absolutely did get in. I absolutely did crush it. And so that's an example of showing that I worked hard instead of just saying, hey, I'm a hard worker. Number 3 is it's not just about what you say, but it's how you say it. You are going for a tech sales role. Tech sales people communicate. They use their words. So part of the interview is not just verifying that, hey, you're a hard worker, you're someone who's coachable, you're someone who wants to be in sales, but they're also trying to understand your communication skills. And so if you're answering interview answers like this, where you sound really boring and really monotone and just like an absolutely miserable person, then you're not going to get the interview. You need to deliver answers with excitement, with enthusiasm. So now let's talk about the 3 most common questions you're going to get in a tech sales interview answer and how to answer them. The first one is, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your background. Walk me through your resume. It's going to be some version of that. And the goal of this is we want to demonstrate that we have the character traits to be a good tech sales rep. So if we start with knowing what that is, then we can think of the 3 to 4 stories we want to tell that reflect we have those traits. And so the 5 traits that you want to show that you have is 1, grit. You can handle rejection, right? You're going to be making 100 calls a day. You're going to be sending 50 emails a day, something like that. If you get 1 no, if you get 1 person telling you to unsubscribe, are you going to lose your shit? Are you going to decide to quit that day? No, that's not what good tech sales reps do. They understand that rejection is part of the process. 2, you need to be coachable. You are new to the world of tech sales. And if you come in with a high ego thinking you know better, then that manager is not going to want to hire you. They want to be able to coach you up. And so you need to be someone who is eager to implement feedback, who is low ego. 3 is being an active listener. People think sales is just about talking, but really, actually good sales is about listening, understanding what someone's problems or pains are, and then pitching to what those problems and pains are. So you want to show times in your life where you've actually demonstrated great listening skills, and not that you're just great at yapping and talking, but that you do a great job of understanding those around you. You've been coined as someone who is a good listener. The 4th thing is you want to have ownership and accountability. In a sales role, you are measured by a number. You are measured by how you're performing against your quota. So if you are not performing well against that quota and you come up with excuses and say, oh, it's not my fault, it's the leads are bad, or, the sales team is doing a bad job of closing the leads that I give them, that is not taking accountability and ownership. You need to be someone in the past, when it came to your responsibilities, you owned them fully. You want to show examples and stories in the past when you've been faced with challenges, with responsibilities, and you've took them on fully. You haven't looked for someone else to solve that issue for you, or you haven't looked for some excuse to blame why you didn't accomplish that thing. The last thing you want to show is that you actually want to be in sales. Tech sales is not easy. On a day-to-day basis, it can feel like a grind. It is worth it over the long term, but on a day-to-day basis, like I said, you're getting told no constantly. And so they actually want to hire people who actually want to be in this, who actually want to learn sales, who actually want to become good at it. So demonstrating your love of sales or eagerness to become great at sales and learn sales is important. So the next thing you want to do with this answer is you want to highlight achievements, not failures. Often, people in interview answers can talk down about themselves and their accomplishments. This is a time to show the best of you. This person only has 30 minutes with you to learn who you are. You want them to see the best accomplishments and the highlights of what you've accomplished in your career. Don't downplay your success and all that you've done. So while the majority of your answer is going to be about your past accomplishments, you want to finish your answer with why you're here. Why are you applying for this company? Why are you trying to get into tech sales? You want to round out your story with, this is why this is the next right step in my career. So I want to now give you an example answer of what I actually gave to get into tech sales. So when I was at Michigan State in college, I was trying to get into tech sales, and here's the interview answer I gave at that time. And so to give you more background on me, I'm finishing my senior year here at Michigan State as a finance grad. And I think there's a few stories that really show that I'm a great fit to, join your team as a tech sales rep. And so to backtrack to sophomore year, I think it was a great story of how I was able to handle rejection. And so at the time, I was applying for a finance club that was very exclusive and rejected most candidates. And the first time around, I did get rejected. And so instead of letting that get me down and deciding to stop, the next time around, what I decided to do was meet with all 50 members in the club. I decided to spend not 10 hours prepping for the interview, but 100 hours, and made sure my interview answers were vetted by people in the club, and, practice those interview answers over and over again. And so when I applied the second time, I got in with flying colors, simply because I didn't let rejection mean I stopped. I let rejection be, a teacher for what I should do better next time. The second story I want to tell you about is the volunteer org that I joined while at Michigan State. And so we started Spartans Rebuilding Michigan, me and my childhood friends. We quickly turned it from a group of 5 friends into 200 people on campus doing volunteer events every single week. And so we became the fastest growing organization on campus. And my part in that was scheduling 5 to 6 volunteer events every single week and making sure we had people show up to those things, made sure we actually volunteered and did well at those things, and maintained those relationships with those, volunteer organizations that we were partnering with. And then the last story I want to tell you about is eventually I became the president. I was promoted to the president of that volunteer org. And so in that role, I thought as president, I'd make all the decisions. What I realized is I had an executive board, and I had to become someone who was, a really great listener. And so from being a listener of our executive board, we ended up, doing about 2,000 hours of volunteer hours of service in my first semester, which was like about a 50% growth in the amount of volunteer hours that we did. And so that's a little bit about my background. Now I'm here because, frankly, while I am majoring in finance, all of my time is spent learning about technology. And I see myself on Twitter, on Wall Street Journal, constantly learning about the industry. And I just want to spend not only my free time doing that, but also my work time. So learning more about your company, Sift, and the product you sell, I find myself endlessly fascinated and going deep down the rabbit hole learning. So the chance to, actually sell that all day long to customers is super exciting to me. So the second question we want to talk about that you're most commonly going to get asked is, why do you want to do a sales role? When it comes to this, we want to focus on a few things. One, we want to focus on the rule of three. The rule of three comes from Jack Welch, former CEO of General Electric, and it basically talks about when making arguments or cases, you want to talk in threes. You want to give 3 reasons. The last and most critical question you're going to get asked is, why do you want to join our company? Now, most candidates say the same generic answer for every single company. They say, oh, I want to join your company because it seems like you guys are growing fast. Or, oh, I saw you on LinkedIn, so I decided to apply. That is not what you want to say here. You want to actually show you've done research on their company, their team, and you have a clear reason on why this company is the right opportunity for you to grow your career at. Not only are you showing this person that you did your research and that you're well prepared, but this is also a critical chance to show your sales skills, to show your ability to understand what types of customers they work with, what problems those customers face, and how their product solves those solutions. So there's 3 different areas you can poke on to come up with a good why our company answer. The first is customer case studies. On all of these company websites, there will be a tab or a section for you to see case studies, actual examples of how they've worked with customers on problems they've faced and how their product has led to the solutions that this customer wanted. Now, actually looking into those and understanding what types of issues these customers face, things like they're wasting time on manual tasks, or they're leaving money on the table by not doing X, Y, and Z activity, or they're losing money by not doing X, Y, and Z activity. Actually understanding what those problems are and then how the company's product saves the company time on doing those tasks, or their software allows them to make more money. The second source of a good why our company answer is actually looking to the leaders of the company. Who are the tech sales managers? Who are the VPs of sales? Who are the heads of sales? Who is the CEO? If you actually look into those people and their background and you are impressed by it and you want to learn from these people, then talk about that. Often the founder and CEO will have done many of podcasts where they're talking about the mission, they're talking about their growth, they're talking about the vision. If that stuff fires you up, talk about why it is. The last thing you can do is, we spoke about this earlier, you can look up the company name and type in funding on Google. When those come up, you'll often see articles from that company's website talking about, hey, we've raised this new money. They're talking about their customer growth. They're talking about their vision. Talk about how that growth excites you, or where they're going with their vision is exciting and how you want to be a part of that. So let me give you an example interview answer. If I was interviewing for a tech sales role at Rippling, here's what I'd say. Yeah, I've actually really enjoyed learning about Rippling. There's a few reasons that excite me about the company. The first is actually learning about the problems you guys solve. I think it fits really well into the problems that companies are facing in the economy right now. They aren't hiring as much, right? They're cutting back on hiring. And so they're looking for software to automate some of these key tasks that employees might do. And so, companies don't want people spending time on menial tasks like clicking buttons and onboarding people. So the fact that Rippling is helping these companies automate those HR tasks, I think make it really compelling. It makes it so companies don't have to hire more people for these low-level tasks. And instead, when they are hiring people, they can focus on more strategic, higher value work. Like, actually, how do we make sure employees are excited to work here? How do we make sure employees want to come to work here? Not how are we sending our laptop to them, or how do we make sure we're getting their address, right? Those sorts of simple tasks should be handled by software. The second reason is it's awesome to see the leaders at Rippling and how seasoned they are. Not only Parker, your CEO, who has already worked in the startup space, already been a founder, already grown a company pretty large. It's pretty cool to see him do it a second time now and build a company that's even bigger than his first. And then when it comes to the actual sales team I'll be joining, seeing Ashley as the leader really excites me. She seems like a seasoned leader who's done this many times, and I'm sure she has very structured training and playbooks and a team that she's built that I can learn from. And since I'm new to this industry, I'm coming in with a low ego and I'm ready to soak up all the knowledge. And so I'm pretty excited about the opportunity here. Okay, so now you've got the interview answers that have led to the offer. Now it's about maximizing the offer. Okay, and so step 5 is now getting your offer and negotiating it higher. So here's what's going to happen. They are going to call you, likely the recruiter or hiring manager. They're going to say, we're so excited. We want to offer you X role. We want to offer it at X salary. What do you think? So in this scenario, you don't have to say yes. Instead, show that you're excited, but tell them that you'd love to see the offer in writing over email. And you would love to review it and get back to them with questions that you have. The way you want to handle this negotiation and offer is doing it asynchronously, doing it over email. First, that takes the pressure off of you. Now, the thing you might be thinking in your head right now is, oh, if I negotiate the offer, what if they take it away? That is not going to happen unless you're a complete asshole in how you negotiate it. In general, these companies, when they give offers, they expect you to negotiate back. It doesn't mean they're always going to accept what your counteroffer is, but why wouldn't you ask for more money if you could get it? Now, before you send this email trying to negotiate your offer, you need to figure out, based on your experience, what offer you can get, right? But let's say after that you figure out, based on your experience, here's what people like you with your background for these types of roles, here's the types of offers they're getting. So with this candidate that I helped, what had happened was he got a role for, let's say, about $80K base and $110K total compensation. And for the role he was going for and the experience he had, actually the salary and the base was all higher than that. So an example email that he would send is something along the lines of, thanks so much for sending over this offer. I did a little bit more research on these types of roles, and I saw that base salary is often $90K and total compensation is $120K. Are we able to bridge that gap? Again, super excited for the offer. And then you sign off with best and your name. And so really it's quite short and simple. You don't have to come up with endless reasons. It doesn't have to be caveated, and it doesn't have to be 10 paragraphs long. You want to get to your point and your ask quickly, and you just want to back it up with market data, right? What are people with your levels of experience for these types of roles? What are they getting paid? It's really that simple. Okay, so that was a lot of information, but I truly believe if you follow this step by step, you will land a great tech sales role, because this is the exact system we teach our candidates. So my company, the past 4.5 years, has placed 200 plus people in tech sales careers at the top tech companies. Some of these people have had no experience. Some of them have had a ton. And so we summarized all of that in this career roadmap. It's hyper personalized to you wherever you're at in your career journey. It provides you everything you need to land an incredible offer. Emails that lead to interviews, interview answers that lead to offers, and negotiation strategies that lead to maximizing your job offer. So if you're thinking, I'd love to know more based on my experience, what offers I can get, then check this out. This is 100% free. You can get it at techsalesmentors.com/roadmap, or just hit the link in the description below.